Welcome, everyone, and members especially, to another Healing Wednesday, Circle of 12. I'm Lee Carroll.
And I'm Monica Morani.
We come together once every single Wednesday, as you probably know. I'm saying this only because if you're new, you want to know, what are you going to see? Basically, we are here to give you information, answer questions. There's meditations, channeling, and a keynote speaker, and of course, the Circle of 12 meditation. Mm-hmm. So, especially wanting to welcome all of the members. The members are here, as you know, on these shows, exclusively on these shows. And if you are a member, you get a whole lot of things that the folks who are not members won't even know about. But I think the best thing, if I could, my bias, is the replays. And that is to say that these programs are available to you, all of them, anytime you want to. And that, to me, is valuable. And not only that, if you've missed pieces and parts, you can go and find the pieces and parts easily. If you didn't know it, there's actually a feature on the membership portal where you can see kind of how we structure these programs. So you can see the Q&A just if you wish to, or just the speaker if you wish to, or just enjoy the meditation. So that's all I wanted to say about that. I always talk about the internet and its speed and the problems. And that's always the same. Don't let internet issues bother you. Don't be frustrated. Don't just because you have a nice chat and things like that. We are all really actually changing things as we go. We're looking for even additional technologies, especially to enhance the chat. Maybe I shouldn't even told them that.
Well, for the live stream,
I think some of them are here.
Sometimes when it goes away for the whatever reason, it does come back.
Yeah.
So just be patient and refresh and come back in, and we'll still be here.
Yeah, so that's true. We had a couple of situations when it went off for a while and then came back, and people had left.
Yeah.
I would say, no, you can stay and see it. Anyway, so the replays are available. They're about an hour or so, hour and a half, right after the show, good recording, so don't be frustrated. Now, we have this thing called Call for Healers, and we've mentioned it before, but if you're new, I just wanted to tell you about it. There's a place on your portal for this, but also you can get to this form quickly. If you think you're a fit for the program, or you know people who are, you've watched enough programs to know what we do, it's cryonmasters.com/call. cryonmasters.com/call will get you a form. And this form is to fill out to see if you'd like to be on the program. We've had some really wonderful results, and it comes from you folks. And so I just wanted to thank you for doing that. It's, we can peruse the net and we can call on our friends for so long, but it is all of you who give us these wonderful speaker and the ideas, and we look at them, almost all of them, just to see if they're a good fit for the program.
Yeah. What I love is the section we're going to do next, which is the question and answers with Lee, Kryon, and myself. And you have access in your members portal to submit a question. You can also go to cryonmasters.com/questions. Now, here's a few guidelines to asking questions. Think about the question and how others may benefit from you asking that question. And so we ask not to make it personal, where you're asking a very specific detail about your personal situation, such as what to do about my husband or my wife, my psychic dog. Make your questions concise and short, and it's helpful if you can have one question submitted at a time. If you're asking 4 or 5 questions in the one group of questions, it's a little more difficult for us to then cover all of those and then get to somebody else's question. So they're the guidelines, unless Lee has something else to offer.
What I always say is that I tell people, if you want your question to raised to the top group of consideration, you make it concise. Now, Monica's mentioned that, but really, truly, there are those who tell us a life story and then get to the question, or the question is inside a paragraph somewhere. And it's less apt to be looked at if there's paragraphs to read.
But please keep submitting your questions.
Please do.
It's very helpful. As Lee answers them, believe it or not, I am sure that your question is being asked by 10 or 20 or more people as well. So thank you to those who have submitted their question. And thanks to John from Southern Oregon in the US. John is asking, is it okay to use a personal experience, for example, a native sweat lodge, as the place and setting for the Circle of 12 visualization? So really, I think John's asking, he's going off script from what Kryon's saying.
That's right.
Is that okay?
More than okay. This will be a common theme. An answer to several questions is the same answer. And John, what I want to tell you is that you actually have gone to the next step. This Circle of 12 meditation, we do the crossing the bridge, the going through the portal, going to the theater and all. It is a template of invitation for you to create a scenario for you that is personalized for you, where you do the same kind of thing and feel the kinds of things that you would maybe be more comfortable with. Now, in your particular case, the sweat lodge, and if that's where you have felt the closest to your soul, to Gaia, to spirit, that is where you should go. Absolutely. I want to just tell you what I have done personally, in that there are some places that I have been that just blew me away in I would say, the sacredness. And it's not crossing the bridge into a theater. And that is where I will often go in my quiet time. One of them may surprise you. We were in Monument Valley giving channels and meditations with the Navajo. And we have tours in Monument Valley. We've done a couple now. We're going to do another one as soon as COVID clears up and we can do it. It's the quietest place I think I have ever experienced when I'm outside. And where even the wind stops, and you're there and you realize, I can't hear anything at all. And then you go into a meditation and you realize, I'm with the earth. The dirt of the earth is at my feet. I want to take off my shoes if it's warm enough or cold enough, or vice versa, if it can be done. And that's where I would want to go. There were also a couple of temples or ashrams in India where I felt I wanted just to stay. It was the feeling for me. And so, yes, the answer is yes, yes, and yes. So any of you listening to this, if you'd like to substitute, especially in your own meditations, something else from what you're actually hearing from Kryon that makes you feel better about where you could be that's sacred, please do it.
Beautiful. Great answer, Lee. Thank you for sharing. Next, we have a question from Wendy, and Wendy is in Cobble Hill, British Columbia in Canada. Wendy's asking, Lee, how long did it take for you to receive your validation from Spirit that what you are being told or shown by Spirit is real? That's a great question. I've never ever thought to ask you that, Lee. What was your process of
First of all,
knowing it was real?
Can I tell you that we are very different? It's Wendy, not just in the gender. How you were brought up, how I was brought up, what we believe, what we were taught, all these things. And so if you have a tremendous hurdle to get through with esoteric information, and I did, it's going to take longer just to get you to a place of acceptance of what you're doing. Then past that, looking at how real are the attributes that you are experiencing, because there's part of us that will judge ourselves at every single point. I'm always impressed when I meet people who have been esoteric all their lives, and they were like born into a family who is this way as well. So they weren't necessarily steeped in some doctrine. They're very, very open to these kinds of things. And they grow up with a mom and a dad or one or the other who says, look, this is fine and fine. And by the time they're young adults, they're on board. It was in my mid-40s. And I had all of this, if you want to call it, training that was in doctrine, like so many of us. And it took me longer. So I want to tell you the actual answer for me, and that's what you asked, was 3 years. Yes, from the moment I started channeling Kryon and sat in the chair, it took 3 years for me to fully comprehend and integrate this as being not only the rest of my life, but totally and completely real. Now, some would say, Lee, does that mean that you were actually channeling and not believing it was real? Not exactly. I was channeling, and when I'm in trance and delivering those kinds of things, and I'd come out of it, and I would go, at some level, I go, what am I doing? And then I would go back to work, And so it was those times. It took me 3 years to go to Kryon full time as well. So there's always that duality, which is going to challenge the kinds of things that we are discovering. Now, this month, we have channels from Kryon about that very thing. And it's he calls it the new frontier of awareness for humanity. And he's going through the steps of awareness and how it feels. And that's basically my story as well. So for me, it took 3 years. I have been in meetings where I've channeled. And people have come for the first time because they were invited by a guest, by a friend, and they're a guest. And they have come, and they'll come up later with tears and said, this is what I've always known, but I had to have it put into a place that made me understand what I felt. And it was instant. And it was like yesterday and today, it was full acceptance, understanding, integration. And that took them, a day or so, because they were ready. It took me longer. So truly, the answer is, for me, it took a while. For others, it might take a while. But I see a whole lot of young people, and I mean very young people, who are literally on board with this as soon as they hear it and they say, this makes sense. And the things that I see outside that are given to me don't. And so this is also what's going on. Thank you for that great question.
I think, Lee, when I hear you talking about that, I'm also privy to more insights about Lee personally than what he shares.
Well, let's not talk about all of them, all right?
No, but what comes to mind is how instrumental Jan Tober was in your journey of Kryon, is Kryon real, and even what to do with it. Jan was always there helping and guiding you in that process. Sure, you had to go through it on your own, but one of the things I remember where there was two things.
Okay.
One is where you were going to do your first live channel.
Right.
And it was to the temple group that Jan was with.
That's right.
Very metaphysical, high consciousness group. And you went there, sweating bullets, you said. And I remember you describing that, well, I'm going to just do this, and if they say this is no good, I am stopping. That's like a challenge to spirit.
That's right.
Show me it's real or I'm going to quit. It was like that. You were going to channel, and if they said it was no good, you were going to quit. Can you tell them what actually happened?
That was the time. This was the litmus test for me. There was a temple group of high metaphysical thinkers, and they had been meeting for years and years. It was called, I forgot that point in time. I think it's changed its name. It's no longer there. But this was well known in the metaphysical community in our city. And I was invited to go because Jan Tober was part of this. And it's a thing that I didn't want any part of. I knew she was part of it. I was married to her. I just told her, I'm not going. You go and have a nice time, but it's not for me. Suddenly I'm there channeling in front of them. And it was my time to say, okay, I know what's going to happen. I'm going to channel. They're going to be very quiet. And then later, one of them is going to talk to me in the kitchen over hors d'oeuvres, and they're going to say, listen, we've decided you ought to keep your day job.
And that was what you were almost threatening with Kryon,
Yes, this is right.
Great, but I'm not going to continue.
And instead, there was the silence, and then one of them stood up. In fact, it was the leader, Teacher Barbara. And she stood up and says, Lee, this is what we've been waiting for. And I knew right then I was in trouble because that means that I wasn't going back to my day job, which I really liked, and all these things. That it was the beginning of the rest of my life. By the way, Jan Tober, still around, still doing profound things. jantober.com, if you're interested, gives profound readings. She's the one who started Kryon, by the way. jantober.com, if any of you are interested. Thank you for... What was the second one, just briefly?
Well, it was when you and Jan were doing book one, The End Times, and you were just putting them out in paper and thinking,
Oh, yeah.
well, this is not going to work. And what was the response?
Well,
It still continues to sell today.
Yes.
That was the response.
that's the first book written, I believe, in 93. It's
Yeah.
the smallest one, called The End Times.
And what was the response?
Well,
It still continues to sell today.
Yes.
That was the response.
that's the first book written, I believe, in 93. It's
Yeah.
the smallest one, called The End Times. It's still available, and we keep reprinting it today. That's very unusual for a publisher to
Yeah.
have a book that is still available and popular.
And that was moving through the self-doubt.
I was printing them, I was faxing them or something, and spiral
Yeah.
binding them at a place called Kinko's at the time, and giving them to friends. Right. All right.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing that from humble beginnings. And here you are 31 years later, still, in my opinion, delivering even more enhanced messages than what you began with. So let's now move into a short meditation and a channel from Kryon. And a meditation can be many things to many people, and really it's just a time for yourself to quieten your mind. Allow your breathing to be in slowly and out slowly. Allowing your body to relax. Relaxing your head, your shoulders, your arms, your hands. Relaxing your chest, your abdomen, your thighs, your knees, your calves and your feet. Allowing everything to completely soften and relax so that you create a posture to receive messages. When you meditate in quietness and stillness, you receive messages from your heart, your higher self, your guides from Gaia. And in this circle we are all creating together. We have a community of consciousness, postured and prepared to receive a message from Kryon. Kryon knows who is here and who is listening. And so now let us invite Kryon to deliver the message. Thank you, Kryon.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. As we come to you yet again, we are aware indeed of who is here. The invitation is for you to perhaps listen to the first 3 channels, for this is the 4th in a series of 4. And the subject is this: there is a new frontier happening of consciousness on the planet. It begins now. For those who would watch the news and watch that which is around you, or just listen, or be aware perhaps of the field, you would say, well, it seems to have gotten worse. Dear ones, often that is how it seems before the sun comes out. So indeed it is a beginning, and we have talked about how it feels for those who discover a grander truth. We have mentioned this. It's not another belief system. This is not something that is an invitation to tear you out of something that you already believe. It's an enhancement of the concept of the Creator, God, Spirit, however you see it. Not just an enhancement, but a full revelation of what might be there. That is what we are going to do even in the Circle of 12. Moving into that place, which is a multidimensional place of your own soul and what it means. That's what we do. So these 4 that we give you are the steps that some of you have gone through, the 4 steps of the revelation of a grander truth. Not a new truth necessarily, but one which has always been there, but the energy of the planet now gives the ability to have it revealed. Intent and wisdom are often the catalyst or the tools of that revelation. And the ones who are often at the forefront are old souls. Now, we have mentioned that before. An old soul is one who has been here on this planet. That's the definition as we have it now, for many times. And so it's like a school. You come and go, and you come and you go, and those who have had experiences or expressions on this planet the most are the ones who start then waking up to a grander truth. They've been here, they've gone through the elementary steps, and now they understand. Is it true, do you think, that through revelations of time, what you learn, that it gets to a place where you graduate? And the answer is yes. Through past lives, through incarnations, you carry that which is your Akash, what you knew, what you found out, how you felt about it, what revelations you had, even as the first time, second time, third time you were on the planet, till you get to a place where you feel comfortable here. And then there's more. In this new energy, since 2012, there are tools now starting to be available for those who are waking up to this new revelation. This is the year of revelation. So this now is the fourth channel. And I will tell you where this is going. The others have been the process, what it's like, what to do when, for instance, you lose friends or relatives. And I don't mean through death. I mean through consciousness. In other words, they turn their back. Or in some cases, there's even betrayal, because they cannot fathom what you believe. We discussed last time that it's so different. And we used the metaphor that they are in a black and white world, and that is how they see in all the shades of black and white, and you've moved into color, and they cannot fathom color. And when you tell them about color, they just look at you blankly and say, well, have a nice day, pat you on the head, look at each other and say, well, you know, that person, he or she will end up in the loony bin eventually. An expression that they've even used for my partner many times. This is the fourth. You're through that. You understand that. You're now facing a grander truth, and it's not just a belief system, dear ones. It is time to integrate. Some have said it's time to implement the new tools of the grander truth. We go the next step. It's time to integrate the new truth. If you simply go along with some of the new tools and some of the new attributes and some of the belief, that's one thing. But this grander truth says that you are a piece of the Creator. So now you can integrate into some of these beautiful attributes that you only thought were available to angelic beings. That's why the healing circle of 12 exists. I told my partner, you remember, Lee, what you saw and what you know, even as a young man. You've seen enough miracles, Lee. Even if you didn't believe in the esoteric things, you knew what was possible. And now it is time to create those things and reveal those things to those around you. The integration has many facets. The first one is this. We've told you that consciousness is energy, and that consciousness can actually create patterns in your life of what you expect you get. We told you it's so powerful, especially with old souls, that it's almost like a menu that you would order life from. Here's the menu. And you look at it, and you see things like happiness, sadness, disease, health. You see cascading problems or cascading, I would say, revelations and good things. That's all on the menu. And it's so interesting which column humans select, because they're not really on board with the idea that what they expect, they create. Did you hear that? Dear ones, the attitude of expectation and intent of what your day is going to be like is part of the creation of your day. Oh, wait a minute, Kryon. See, if you've never heard this before, there's a lot of wait a minutes. Wait a minute. You mean we can change chance? Dear ones, how do you describe chance? Chance happens when there's no other attributes around it to change it. Did you know that? Chance happens when there's no attributes around it to change it. If there are attributes to change it, chance then is biased one way or the other. The hypochondriac who is afraid of disease will get the disease they're afraid of. You find that odd. The ones who wake up in the morning celebrating their life saying, I'm free of disease, it hasn't got a chance in my life, that's not what's going to happen to me, are more apt to come through that without it. Or if they receive it, then they have the tools to change it. Consciousness changes the reality. Is it possible, you say, that I can implement this so that I will always be in the right place at the right time, so that the things that are supposed to come to me, which are magnificent, will happen? Yes, yes, and yes. This is what we have taught that is so unusual. You tell that to somebody in a black and white planet. You say to them, I'm bringing good things to me. And they will go, and how is that? And you say, well, I'm thinking about it. And again, they'll pat you on the head and send you away. Because this is color. This is what color looks like. Oh, but there's more. I will show you now something perhaps you haven't thought of. These new tools that start to be integrated into this body of yours, this consciousness of yours, that are now available for the new energy, and also because you've seen this grander truth that is not just palpable, but operational. It's almost like getting a new operational system for your body. You start realizing something. Many of you have started understanding something that you didn't expect. The indigenous of this planet knew all about it. It was more primitive, you might think, because they didn't have the concepts of this in the way I'm giving to you, but they had discovered that this works. Consciousness, being energy, is now being shown. Experiments where groups of people can create that which is positive for other groups of people, or connect through the field. That's now the experimentation of the day. This is being done. You see where the consciousness of a group can change something. That is like so new to you, and you're going, you're kidding, really? And then you start to look at the energies that consciousness is creating and how to measure them. That's going on right now. The indigenous knew this. Did you ever think back all to the stories? The indigenous would gather together and they would have ceremony. And they would have ceremony for their crops and their children and the rain and the weather and all of these things. And so many look at this and go, oh, that's nice, how quaint. And then they move on, not realizing this is what we teach. Did you know that? That by coming together specifically with ceremony, they had given intent together as a group, and an alliance with the planet clicked, and they got what they asked for. Ask an indigenous about their history. They got what they asked for. They didn't even understand. At that point, they weren't asking, they were creating. So here's what I want to tell you that's new. It's time to invite back ceremony into your lives. Not their ceremony, not a specific indigenous ceremony, but yours. There are so many around who will help you with this. But what happens with ceremony is like what homeopathy does for your body. Ceremony for your life is a signal that is sent to spirit, to your biology, but specifically this alliance with Gaia. Time for you to have ceremony about you and the earth, because you're walking on it, and It is a sentient part of all that is. It is Mother Earth. The ceremony is at hand, developed by you, for you, perhaps with others you will decide. It's not just a habit. It's not just a thing you do. It's not a doctrine. It's profound in a revolutionary way, and will start to reveal things as they occur that never were there without it. Ceremony is an integration of a new truth. Create your own. Make it modern if you wish, but understand what you're doing is an alliance with the Circle of 12. All that is, the structure of the planet, of the universe, is at your fingertips. Integration. Welcome to a new world. And so it is.
And very slowly, take a deep breath in through your nose. And exhale through the mouth.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon. Come a little closer. We spoke earlier in this day, a few moments ago, about those who have found a new truth. The shaman who spoke earlier, and she is a shaman, speaks with a wisdom of multidimensionality. For some, it is difficult. For you're used to the kind of conversation that you would have or to listen to with other speakers or keynotes or whatever. And it's different. She speaks with the energies around her. That's how she speaks. Not with necessarily the syntax of what you would expect. That's how she speaks. She has one foot in another world. That world that is not just esoteric, but another reality. You might say she would have no trouble crossing the bridge. And she's made some statements. And one of them is the one that I have given you many times. She is not talking about a new truth. And she said this. She's talking about the truth. There is another layer of the truth that you are not seeing. It isn't simply an expansion of what you think you know. And we have indicated in the channelings of this month. How do you explain this? Again, so that all will understand. It's not a new personal truth for some to believe. There is a grand truth out there that is yet to show itself that will change everything. Everything. It'll change how you think about yourself, how you think about the galaxy, the universe. It'll change how you think about your soul and everything you've learned. That is a new truth, but it is the truth. The door starts to open, and it exposes that which you never saw. It would be like you get a landing, for instance, from those from another planet. And suddenly, the new truth is this: you're not alone. And you would say, well, that's not necessarily new. It's a new truth that compartmentalizes itself and we move from one to another. No, it's a grand new expansion of what you think you knew. And you can't undo it. It's not something you would say, well, I'm not going to believe that anymore. I'm going to move to something else. No. It changes everything. you ever were told or you ever knew. Think about that. When that happens, dear ones, and it will, how many things will change because of it? Can you think right now of the belief systems on this planet that will not have included the possibility of other souls on other planets? And what will they do with it? Because it's not in the scripture that is for you. Does that mean they won't have God? Get ready for it, because that will happen. Opinions about an older truth won't stand the test of the truth. Think about that. We spoke earlier about what you can do personally when you really have that happening in your life where you discover the new truth, bigger than anyone thought. When you start to have your world in color and all is in black and white around you and still thinking in black and white, and you want to say to them, look, just look around and find this for yourself, and it'll change how you think. It'll expand everything you knew about God. It doesn't replace what you think. It expands what you think. They're so afraid that what you have might not fit the paradigm of what they believe. Not understanding that what they believe is step one of 100 steps. And what they believe when you go to the next step will simply expand it more. That what they see is God just gets better. Doesn't replace it. It just gets better. And what do you do with those who won't come along, or worse, they'll call you names or turn their back or walk the other way, and you lose your friends or some of your family or those you really loved, perhaps, because you looked and saw behind that door a light that no one saw before. And now you can't close the door because you cannot unknow things once they have happened. When those that came back from the near-death experience, as we discussed in the first session, in the first of the 4 channelings that we've done, when those came back from that near-death experience, they had seen what they had seen. And no one can tell them that it was a brain malfunction or something the brain creates chemically that they were just to help them to die. That is the logic that biologists use for near-death experiences. And they will look at you if you say that and you say you weren't there. My whole body expanded and went someplace my brain doesn't know about. It wasn't a fantasy. And besides that, if you start talking to many of them, they'll paint the same picture. The brain's not capable of a common picture like that. Not like that. A grandness, a feeling, an emotion, a peacefulness, a world in color, multidimensional. Love that pours through the door and calls your name. And then the door shuts and you're pulled back to the bed in the hospital with all the tubes and the beeping machines and the lights and somebody looking over you saying, wow, you're back. And all you can think of is, I didn't want to be back. Why did you bring me back? That is what is happening over and over. And they'll never forget it. Those who have had those experiences that I have just described quite often go on to talk about them to interested parties and people who want to know what that's like and what that might have been a glimpse of. What was it? You'll say. And they will look you in the eye and say, that was reality. This is not. The Circle of 12, wonderful time. I want to just stay here.
Absolutely. And all through your descriptions, I see that you are channeling your knowledge to bring it to us, because it's the same process Lee has to go through in multidimensional information and giving it to us in a linear way in the words. And all through your time with us, that is what I'm experiencing with you. You have this incredible multidimensional energy surrounding you, and you are working with that to bring it to us in the words that you've used. And just beautiful work. I honor you thank you so much.
Thank you for seeing that. That's my job.
It is. We can do that immediately. We'll give you the last word just for 30 seconds. Whatever you have to say. We'll put you on the spot. Don't get nervous, Amy.
Have some fun. Go have some joy. Go be outside. Find pleasure in nature. It's what will feed us.
Oh, awesome.
Oh, you are a girl after my own heart. Absolutely. Yes.
Thank you, Amy.
You.
And it's almost that time.
Yes, it is. It's time for us to have a break. Please go outside and hug a tree, or put your feet in the dirt and smell some flowers. Get some of that nature energy into you. Take a 10-minute break, and we'll see you soon for the Circle of 12.